Thank you very much. Hi everybody, it's absolutely fantastic to be back in the saddle here at Good Oil, representing a completely new venture this year. I was listening to the Money of Mine podcast the other day, and they had the very astute Rick Rule, investor on the show. And he said that the number one investment thematic he can see at the moment is oil and gas. And that's because we've been geopoliticizing and popularizing our energy system for the last 2 decades. It's been schoolyard pickings in the energy landscape. This is exactly what's happened here in the east coast of Australia. The existing series of reserves that we have are just completely insignificant and will unfulfill the demand that is required. This is a part of Australia that will not see a technological revolution because we're too busy trying to keep the lights on and keep manufacturing going rather than developing new power-intensive industries. As a result, it's no surprise, you reduce supply and demand stays the same, prices go up. Australia has become a fundamentally uncompetitive place to do business based on its energy system. The government has a dilemma to make. They have a decision to make. Are they going to kill the golden goose and curtail a East Coast export industry that supports 6,500 very high-paying jobs? Or are they going to try and manage a gas price down to around $8, which is still not necessarily globally competitive when we compare it to the United States? What is required is not just a few wells off the offshore Otways here, it is a multi-TCF new resource. A new multi-TCF resource is required to come into the east coast of Australia to both arrest the decline, allow technology to be built in our country, as well as keeping our export industries that pay for the country's balance sheets to keep going. I believe that opportunity is sitting in the Queensland. It's been sitting there since about 2013 or so when the first wells were drilled into it. It's called the Taroom Trough. The Taroom Trough is a unconventional basin-centred gas play sitting just a little bit outboard of Roma, or the Wallumbilla gas hub. The Taroom Trough has a major scale to it. It has what I would call a Montney-Scale. The Montney is probably the best analogue to the Taroom Trough if this is your first introduction to what is Australia's most exciting onshore gas play. The Montney is an area which, through the developments of unconventional drilling over time, went from producing small amounts of gas, condensates and light oils at about 800 million standard cubic feet a day. It's only 10 years later is it producing 8 BCF a day. That is the scale of the opportunity that we have in front of us at the Taroom Trough. We're seeing high performance wells in the Montney drilled with 2 to 3 kilometre laterals that are producing 5 to 15 million standard cubic feet a day and up to 1,500 barrels of associated condensate and recovering up to 15 BCF per well. Those are economics that work in nearly any gas market, including the one in the US, where gas prices are about 30% of what we have in the east coast of Australia, where our cost base is probably only 50% higher. We have 150% more upside than they do in the US, and that opportunity is sitting in front of us now. And that opportunity has been identified by several parties, and funnily enough, those that operate in the Montney, Shell, Conoco, Petronas, are also those that are looking around the Taroom right now with multi-million tonnes of liquefaction infrastructure just around the corner. So why do I really like the Taroom? There have been many people that have come into Australia to try to make unconventional gas and oil work and have not necessarily been as successful as they want to be. The reason why I really like this is the barrier for success is incredibly low. We sit in an area that is associated to not only the vast domestic market of which I have portrayed previously, but also the 3 pipelines that feed the 25 million tonnes of liquefaction that we have up on Curtis Island in Gladstone. Beneficially to the Taroom Trough, where we have seen significant amounts of liquids also produced along with the gas to date from the wells that have been tested, we have 2 Australian refineries. Think about that as a weird sentence. Australian oil going into an Australian refinery inside of Australia. The other thing I appreciate about it is the scale. This is multi-TCF in nature. The outcome of success is compounding to the future of our nation, or the future of our energy system in the east coast of Australia. Elixir alone has 2.6 TCF of independently certified resources. Omega, another listed oil and gas company in the Taroom Trough, has 1.7 TCF or so of independently certified resources, and Shell is sitting on their numbers, most likely already at reserve category. We have seen successful flows of gas from wells already. Investors are yet to stick all of these disparate pieces of information together to really understand that this play is a lot more mature than what has been projected as an early stage resource play. Shell is investing hundreds of millions of dollars. They are the leading investor, explorer, appraiser and optimizer in the Taroom Trough. I get to sit in the slipstream of a super major rather than be the tip of the spear, as I have had to be in the past. And then finally, the gas that has been produced is on spec. It's very low in purity. That means that we're going to be able to spend our capital on upstream, wells in the ground, gas to surface, hydrocarbons to surface and into the pipeline, not on very costly, very untimely amine units and other gas processing pieces of infrastructure that can ultimately cripple small companies. And then finally, we're also in Queensland. There is 2 or 3 decades of prolific coal seam gas in front of us. We are well serviced. If you want to be an onshore operator, you want to be in Queensland. The number of rigs, coiled tubing units, wireline units, the progressive nature of the regulatory system in Queensland allows us to operate with a degree of ease. This is a picture of the Taroom Trough, a map. These are the current permits. It might actually surprise you that Elixir is the largest acreage holder. We sit with about 500,000 net acres or 2,000 square kilometres or so in the metric system. We are nicely diversified. We're on the eastern side of the trough where Omega has had success in their light oil play. We've drilled wells in the centre of the trough where we produce dry gas to surface. And now we have an exceptionally large amount of leverage onto the western side of the trough where Shell has been investing hundreds of millions of dollars in a gas condensate play called the Dunk Sands. This play itself, the Dunk or the Diona-1 units, you can see depicted here on the map. It's running about from north to south. It's a series of fluvial channel sands coming in off the Roma Craton and the other granite structures out to the west and coming down and filling into the trough. We have a lot of acreage that is ideally located, that's in the exact same areas where Shell has been drilling a lot of their successful wells. Last year they drilled 2 lateral wells, 2,000 metre laterals into the Dunk, Bathurst 5 and Dunk 5, and as you can see from the pictures up here, they are ultimately been incredibly successful. Elixir has mapped over 100 linear kilometres of exposure to this exact play in our acreage alone. Our next 3 opportunities, Lorelle-3, Daydream-3 and Ingliston-2, will all be drilled into these exact same reservoir units, which are easily mappable on seismic due to the fact that they sit between 2 coal members and in locations from the pinch-out area at the similar depths to what Shell has been doing. Our strategy is ultimately, whatever Shell is going to do, we're going to be the next to do it. We're going to be a fast follower. We're going to leverage off their investments. And that's exactly, anytime Shell does something, it makes me say, why are they doing that? Shell is going to be looking to execute 800 square kilometres of brand new 3D seismic over their primary permit. There is already a small 3D in the area, the Overston 3D, which is publicly available. Why are they shooting 800 square kilometres of 3D? That says to me they must be able to see something in the 3D that we can't see in the 2D. So we spent a little bit of time, a little bit of geophysical work, a bit of quantitative interpretation, looking at the 3D and saying, what can you see there? And eventually you can start to tease out reservoir characteristics. You can start to see some of these channels. You can start to see what may be sweet spots, what may be lower areas of reservoir quality, shale filled channels and other geological features that you would want to avoid if you only have a few kicks of the goals. And so what we can see is the blooms in this picture up here are probably diagnostic of better areas of reservoir quality. Positively for Elixir, that extends to the north where we'll be drilling Lorelle-3, and it also appears to extend to into the east where we'll be drilling Daydream-3. When we take the seismic lines now and we place the existing wells that are publicly available and the results that they've got against that, and we start to look inside the seismic line itself into the Dunk Sands, we can see areas where higher amplitudes are diagnostic of better well results. Currently, there is a perfect 100% correlation to those outcomes, as well as a negative positive correlation in Overton 2. Dunk 1 is an absolutely fantastic well, 37 metres of 100% net to gross with almost conventional-like porosity. You can see the boomer inside of that little seismic line inside of the dunk there. When you compare that to the shale-filled channel that Overton 2 likely drilled in, the ratty, scratchy and non-blocky reservoirs in which Overton 2 was drilled, it starts to give you a bit of confidence. When we now apply that to the Lorelle-3, to the 2023 vintage seismic that we will be drilling on, we can see similar geophysical responses. Is this a sweet spot? We're going to find out. It's pretty exciting stuff though. Lorelle-3 is our upcoming well, a big well towards the end of the year. We're going to be drilling that down to 3,600 metres through both the Dunk sands, the Overton sands and the Lorelle sands, which have all had degrees of success throughout the basin. We've applied for an advanced finding with our friends over at Oz Industry. We're going to be taking whole core, sidewall cores of the various reservoir units, conducting nuclear magnetic resonance logs in order to absolutely prove that we're talking about a basin-centred gas play here. The impacts of that will ultimately allow us to design the optimal fracs required to be able to extract this gas from these reservoirs, as well as it will improve the geological prospectivity of all the down dip acreage, because in a basin-centred gas play, you don't have a down dip water leg. So the entire trough will be the beneficiary of this R&D program, and we look forward to reporting out on that in the coming months. Finally, we have a conventional well that will go down just outside the trough. It's a well called Diona-1. It's being drilled in the areas, used to be owned by AGL, now owned by a company called OGT. We've been drilling, that well will be drilled in partnership with X-State Resources. X-State is carrying Elixir for that well. The primary reason for this is that after we drill this well, the other pieces of this permit, which sit inside the Taroom Trough, will be eligible for retention licenses, or otherwise known as PCAs. However, if this well, which goes down in late September, does come in, it means that, believe it or not, Elixir could find its way into gas production inside of the next 12 months. This location sits on the Wagamba gas field pipeline. There is an above-ground tie-in point. The gas that's been found in these structures historically has been better than pipeline specification. The Wagamba gas pipeline and OGT are desperate for additional resources to come into their portfolio. So this is an exciting little catalyst which will occur in the coming weeks, and we should have results out in the early parts of October. So when you walk away, why should you pin your ears back and buy this thing? And well, one is that I'm really excited. I'm energised. I'm absolutely putting 100% of myself into this. Over the last 10 years, I've made a lot of successes and had a lot of mistakes. And this is the second time around that I get to right a lot of those mistakes. And I'm really confident that Elixir has the assets that will allow me to have my redo moment. Elixir has the largest acreage position in the exciting Taroom Trough. You can already start to see the news flow that's starting to come out. There is a rising tide. We will, at the end of about Q1 next year, have the ability to participate in the rising tide for over 15 years. All of our work commitments will have been met, and we will have earned all of our equity and all of our permits, and we will be able to sit there whilst those with much larger balance sheets and access to capital invest around us and rise our market capitalisation for us. We also have a catalytic 6 months, so we have 2 wells going down. Obviously the Diona little conventional gas well that I just spoke about, but then the big Lorelle well, which looks like it's in a fantastic position. At the end of that, I may be able to put up in front of you identical logs to what Shell has been showing people. It is not surprising to anyone with a subsurface qualification in the room that permit boundaries often do not adhere to geological formation boundaries. We're drilling just on the other side of the permit. When we hold those logs up, I'm very confident that you'll see that we're sitting on some of the best Taroom Trough acreage in the entire play. And then finally, we're well funded at $10.4 million of cash and net receivables as of the last quarter. We've got that R&D advanced finding work going on right now, which will increase our funding position as we move into the drilling of the Lorelle well. This is an absolutely fantastic time to get involved. The stock is resetting, it's starting to go again, so get around it. Thanks very much.